Is the Big Apple rotten to the core? A stunning new report reveals a shocking reversal. While millionaires are pouring back into NYC, middle-class families, especially Black and Hispanic households, are fleeing the city in record numbers. And is this a New York story or a harbinger of a larger troubling trend for the American dream and the middle class? Buckle up, folks, because we're about to dissect these findings and explore the staggering wealth gap, where the top 1%, the likes of Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and Elon Musk, now hold more wealth than the entire American middle class. Is the middle class disappearing? Let's find out as we explore why, in the land of opportunity, so many are feeling squeezed out. Hit the subscribe button and join us as we dig deep into this economic thriller. Experts can argue whether the middle class is disappearing, but definitely they are getting squeezed. Check this out.
Experts instead prefer the term squeezed to describe what's happening to the middle class today.
Even if the middle class hasn't statistically shrunk, I do think that the middle class faces more in the way of pressures to maintain or even build upon their position.
What it takes to actually live a middle class life, to have quality of life in many American cities is not what it once was. They're not necessarily able to pay their rent easily. They can't own a property. If they're in their 30s, they may not feel comfortable having kids because they realize that having a child would be too expensive. And forget about medical care. If you have one thing happens to you physically, often people don't have good enough medical care. They don't have any insurance. This all goes into making somebody part of the squeezed middle class.
As the middle class lifestyle grows more expensive and uncertain, it's also moving farther beyond the reach of younger generations. In 2019, just 60% of millennials were part of middle-income households in their 20s, compared with almost 70% of baby boomers.
So basically, the American middle class is shrinking faster than your jeans after Thanksgiving dinner. A new study by Pew Research Center reveals that the percentage of adults living in middle-class households has plummeted from 61% in 1971 to just 50% in 2021. That's an 11-point drop in just 5 decades. Overall, a pretty significant shift in the economic landscape for the United States. Zooming in on New York City, you guys remember the old line, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere? Well, turns out these days, making it in the Big Apple oftentimes means being a millionaire. While 2,400 millionaires fled during the pandemic, a whopping 17,500 newcomers with 7-figure bank accounts flooded into NYC by 2022. Meanwhile, across income brackets, those between $32,000 and $65,000 in annual income were most likely to call it quits. Over 65,000 of them said goodbye compared to just 50,000 high-income earners between 2017 and 2022. That's almost 200,000 middle-income New Yorkers who effectively got forced out of the Big Apple. The reasons are painfully clear though. Rents are still climbing, even after a slight dip. As of October 2023, Manhattan's median rent is 4.6% higher than last year, and raising a family is all but impossible unless you're rolling in dough. Federal standards say that you need $300,000 a year for decent childcare. How much does the typical New York household make? Oh, just $74,694. The equation's very simple. Rising costs are pushing out the majority. Meanwhile, the wealthy waltz back in. As Dana Dennis, a community organizer who left Brooklyn for New Jersey, aptly put it, it's like you're either put on top of the mountain or you're living at the bottom. There's hardly any space in between anymore. But what do you guys think? Do you agree? Really, what I'm worried about here is how our country is more and more moving into isolated financial classes. It just sounds so dystopian to think about cities with only one economic class, especially when they're all being serviced by the lower class. You know what I mean? Rich New Yorkers were only getting richer in 2021, according to data from the New York City's Comptroller's Office. In a reversal from early pandemic trends, New Yorkers earning between $1 million and $25 million saw their adjusted gross incomes rise by 21.3% from calendar year 2020 to 2021. And those making over $25 million saw their AGIs grow by 84.5%. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to keep up with the full picture and the state of America. We're about to dig deeper into the rising rents, shrinking middle class, and how it's all reshaping the city. So definitely stay right there, guys. I remember one of my college professors back in the late 1990s. She told the class that the middle class was going to disappear. This was an education class, and part of the reason why I chose not to go into education. She also discussed declining literacy, something that's happening across generations, including the new alpha generations, Americans born from 2010 onwards. Basically, our professor said that this is the result of decades of decisions, both locally and federally, meant to benefit corporations and billionaires at the expense of everyone else, as the uneducated educated and the poor just take what they can get. You know what I mean? Now, let's take an even closer look at the numbers from New York. Remember the empty penthouses and New York is dead articles of the pandemic? Those days seem to be over. I mentioned earlier how millionaires, those earning $1 million or more, saw their ranks swell in New York by 17,500 from 2020 to 2022. Meanwhile, the city lost nearly 200,000 residents that are making under $172,000 a year. The hardest group hit? Families pulling in between $32,000 and $65,000 a year, especially Black and Hispanic households. Rents and childcare alone make living in New York unaffordable for many. And think about it. This exodus of essential workers, teachers, nurses, firefighters, service workers isn't just bad news for those families. It threatens the city's very backbone. New York's essential services and white-collar industries. As Andrew Beveridge, head of a demographic firm, warns, you need these people for your subways, offices, restaurants. The Policy Institute came up with this study, and what they're especially worried about is that these findings come at a time when the city is preparing to slash the budgets of public services, including police, sanitation, and schools, cuts that could push more working-class residents out of the state. Honestly, could you imagine what if all of the essential service workers just completely walked away from these dystopian cities? Let the rich realize just how they rely on these people and services. What do you think would happen then? These people call themselves the make too much but not enough demographic. You either have to be all the way at the top or you have to be way at the bottom. Now, there's a question that needs to be asked. Do we tax the rich to pay for essential services like free pre-K and affordable housing without driving them out of the city? Raising taxes on the rich could be an option, but it's a hot button issue as always. A recent study suggests that it is possible. Researchers found no significant increase in millionaires leaving New York after tax hikes on the wealthiest in 2017 and 2021. This could theoretically pave the way for funding crucial initiatives that could ease the burdens on middle and lower income residents, essentially helping the middle class stay in the city. But it's not that simple. Governor Hochul and Mayor Eric Adams have both thrown cold water on tax hikes, arguing that New Yorkers are already paying enough. Hochul said that the state of New York has to live within their means. The mayor's office said that amid fiscal challenges, New Yorkers cannot be asked to shoulder the burden for the failings of the state and federal governments. The stakes are high. Basically, you can consider wealthy New Yorkers as the financial engine of the city, contributing a whopping 45% of state income tax revenues in 2021, the highest share since 2015, at least according to an analysis of state data by the Fiscal Policy Institute. But on the other hand, rents keep soaring and childcare costs seem to require almost Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg kind of money. You know what I mean? That's why for many working class New Yorkers who have left, it's getting harder and harder to justify returning. For those who do come back every now and then, they say each time it's more miserable than the last. And I think what's happening in New York could be representative of what's happening to the whole country. Basically, the top 1% is getting richer and richer, and this leaves the middle class getting smaller and smaller. The data is here to back me up. According to the federal data, the top 1% of American earners now control more wealth than the nation's entire middle class. More than 1/4 of all household wealth, 26.5%, belongs to Americans who earn enough money to rank in the top percentile of income. This is from the latest Federal Reserve statistics through mid-2023. The top 1% holds $38.7 trillion in wealth. That's more than the combined wealth of America's middle class, a group many economists define as the middle 60% of households by income. Those households hold about 26% of wealth. Low-income Americans, representing the bottom 20% by income, they own about 3% of the wealth. This is why many are saying that the days of the middle class are long gone. Back in 1990, they held a staggering twice the amount of wealth as the top 1%. But that picture has changed dramatically. A new reality has set in. The top 1% now holds more wealth than the middle class. This milestone, according to the Federal Reserve data, was quietly crossed in late 2020, and the gap, it's only widening. This wasn't a sudden windfall for the ultra-rich. It's been a steady years-long climb. Since the year 2000, the number of decamillionaires worth over $10 million has doubled, and centimillionaires worth over $100 million have quadrupled. Who are these top 1%? Sure, there's the flashy billionaires like Bezos and Elon Musk, but they're just tip of the iceberg. Many are very discreet millionaires that you've never heard of, living quietly among us. Think auto dealers, beverage distributors, or even the guy who owns owns 7 Jiffy Lubes. These are the faces of the new wealth elite. The question of why the rich keep getting richer compared to everyone else isn't new, but it remains relevant and honestly frustrating. Economists wrestle with it constantly, and while there's no single answer, several key factors stand out. Now, of course, first and foremost, really is real estate. The top 1% now control a staggering 12.9% of all real estate wealth, a significant jump from 8.1% in 1990. This coincides with the average home price tripling in that same period, meaning their property holdings just keep appreciating in value. Stocks are another advantage. The top 1% hold nearly half of all corporate equities and mutual fund shares, compared to less than 30% in 2003. This direct ownership of the stock market's growth fuels their wealth accumulation. And lastly, owning a private business offers a significant edge. The top 1% now control almost half of all private equity wealth, compared to 30% back in 1990. Building and owning successful businesses generates substantial wealth, so that further widens the gap with the rest of the population. These factors point to a system where certain assets like real estate and stocks disproportionately benefit those who already possess them. The low interest rate environment following the 2008 recession worsened this trend, basically allowing these assets to balloon in value while leaving many others behind. The result? A growing wealth gap with the rich owning the instruments that keep them getting richer, while the rest continue to struggle to keep pace with rising costs and limited wealth generating opportunities. So what then is a middle-class American to do? I mean, sure, we might not necessarily have Jeff Bezos-sized bank accounts, but we can still play the game and build wealth for ourselves and our families. So first, there's home ownership. The middle class controls nearly 2/5 of the nation's real estate, a valuable asset that can appreciate over time. If you own your own home, consider renting out a spare bedroom or maybe fix it up for resale. Other than that, you can also simply enjoy the stability and security of owning your own place. Stocks too. They're not just for the wolves of Wall Street, right? Mutual funds, ETFs, 401ks, they offer us easy access to diversify investments. Even small, regular contributions can grow significantly over time thanks to the magic of compound interest. I'm talking passive income and all that. But the real game changer is education. In today's world, brains are the ultimate currency. Investing in our own education or that of our children is the single smartest move we can make. A college degree or valuable skill set opens the door to high-paying jobs, better career prospects, and even the potential to become our own bosses. Knowledge is power, plain and simple, and it can unlock a future filled with possibilities that we can only imagine right now. So forget the unattainable dreams of the super rich. We have our own path to success. It's paved with smart strategies and hard work. Own your own home, invest wisely in your future, and prioritize education above all else. Don't let the wealth gap discourage you. With the right tools and mindset, you can achieve anything we set our minds to, and that includes financial freedom and the American dream. So what do you say, guys? This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to learn about building wealth as the middle class. Stay tuned for future videos where we'll dive deeper into specific strategies, resources, and even success stories from our community. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out. I'll see you on the next one.